This is the handover for the AutoSleepers Topaz. With all Volkswagens T5.1s, if you want to get into the fuel filler cap, you have to open the passenger door because there's a little tag, and then remove by hand your diesel filler cap. Bonnet release is located on the other side of the driver's wheel arch. Above the Volkswagen badge, you have your lever. So push up and you've got a conventional stay over onto the left. And then your usual features of power steering and brake fluid, oil filler cap and oil dipstick are side by side, along with your screen wash and your radiator reservoir, and then the engine battery located underneath. On the driver's side of the vehicle, you have your mains hookup point for your EHU cable. Always make sure that you connect to the side of the van before you connect to your power supply. Down below, you've got ventilation exhaust for the heating system, forward and aft. And then you have to remove this cover if you're going to use the water heater on gas. Likewise, you also have to remove these covers when you're going to use the fridge on mains. These are winter covers that can be used for storage. In extreme cold, that can be used to retain the heat within the fridge. Spare wheel on this one is located underneath the back bumper. The vehicle toolkit in a cloth bag behind the driver's seat. When you open up the back door, over on the right hand side, you've got your gas locker access panel. You can open that up. You've got two 3.9 cylinders in there. Need to turn the gas on and off via the brass nut, which is on top of the cylinder. There is further mounted onto the regulator and isolator tap as well. When you open up the wardrobe door in the bathroom, you'll see your isolator taps for the individual appliances around the van. There's no necessity to turn them off when the vehicle's in transit if you switched off at the gas supply, but if you're nervous or anxious about the gas supply on a unit, then you can obviously use it for isolation. Use of the toilet, it's a rigid cassette on these, so you have a lever which you pull round, which opens up into the waste bowl itself. Electric flush. You'll have an indicator light which will come on there telling you when the cassette is nearly full. And then if you pull away this end panel, you have two sections. You have a top section for your rinse water, a mixture of fresh water and possibly a pink solution. Pour it into there as it's slowly filling up, a little bit like a jug kettle. It slowly fills up and gives you a little mark on there. For winter storage, you need to pull that tube forward and direct it away from the vehicle so that that reservoir can be drained down. Below that, you have the cassette. Pull up on the green tab, slide the whole body of the cassette towards you. Should come out nice and easily. On a campsite, you have collection points for these to go into. So the green cap comes off the top completely. You tip the whole thing up, press the green button at the other end of the casing, and it allows then the waste to descend out the base. Before you load it back in, measuring cup full of your base chemical. Up here, we recommend that you use green. There are sachets and tabs that you can also use as an alternative. Mix with about 2 litres of water and then slide the whole body of the cassette back into position so that it locks out. There's a fresh water filler cap on the passenger side, just behind the sliding door, so key in. If you put a hose pipe in, just be mindful that when you open the door, it can snag, all right, and you can end up breaking off the end of the pipe, so just be cautious around filling up the van. On the underskirt at the back, you have a grey water outlet for your wastewater tanks, your shower vanity unit, and then at the front of the vehicle, important to drain this down, you have your fresh water one for the main tank as well. For the awning, hook through the eyelet, make the handle into a crook, and then wind out accordingly. Wind it out to a distance about halfway from the van, and then located up inside the pelmet, you have your legs. Pull the end of the leg out first, and then let the main part of the leg drop down to the ground, and then use the little wheel to lock it off. Same on the other side. It's worth remembering that these are sunshades in wet or windy conditions. You do need to make sure that these are stowed away safely. They're not storm shelters. With the legs deployed, you can continue winding out the awning. and lift the legs and walk the legs out accordingly until the awning's fully extended. Full extension on the awning is about 2.5 metres. You can put side panels onto them. My preference is though to use a drive-away awning, and that's attached into the C-rail on the underlip of the pelmet at the front. To get it back in, wind it back in again to a midpoint, and then retract your legs, undo the wheel nut first of all, fold the leg back up into the pelmet with the foot flat against the inside edge, and lock them back into position. These knuckle joints are aluminium on the end, and a little bit of lubricating grease once in a while does the world of wonders. It stops the aluminium from corroding and locking out the leg mechanisms. Wind the awning back in until it fully retracts. You'll see this little red tab at the end there just disappear back up into the casing, indicating that it's fully retracted. Inside the Topaz, above the bathroom door, you have your 12-volt control panel. So a main on-off switch. Typically you would use your leisure battery, but there is the option of using the vehicle battery as an alternative source of power. When you select either battery, you'll see your battery level indicator. Water pump, use on demand. And you have a water level gauge showing you how much water you have on board. Having removed all the cushions away from the settee, you will find this box located underneath. On the right hand side, or my right hand side because we're looking down from the top, so it's your left hand side, is the fuse box. There's a menu underneath for the individual fuses for the 12-volt operation in and around the van, and then adjacent to that you have your mains RCD switches located as well. Battery charger up on the top, and then over on the right hand side of the box you've got your water heater master switch. Also underneath this box on this side you have your water drain valve. So this lever here that I'm pointing at is at the moment in a horizontal position, so it's allowing the water to flow through the water heater. For winter storage this needs to be lifted into a vertical position 12 o'clock upright so that it can drain the content of the water heater out. When you're setting up the water system in the van, you'll need to make sure that you've got water on board. With the drain valve shut on the water heater, you should be able to purge water through the system. So you should end up, after a couple of minutes, with a continuous cycle of cold water coming out of your hot tap. Repeat the process with the vanity unit and with the shower as well to clear all the airlocks out of the system, and you can then go about heating the hot water. If you're going to use the water heater on mains, then you need to remember to turn on the switch which is inside the bed box. The lower one of these two switches is your electric element. So there's a choice of either an 800 or a 1200 watt electric element, which turns on the element inside the tank, heats the water up to around about 55 degrees or so centigrade. It takes around about 40 minutes or so for that process to go through. Alternatively, if you were wild camping, then you have a gas operation at the switch above. You have to remember to take the plastic cover off on the outside of the exhaust, and you can rock the switch either up to a 50 or down to a 70 degree position. It's automatic ignition. If all is well, the gas lights. If there is a fault or a problem, perhaps because the cover's been left on outside or you've run out of gas, and you'll see a red light come on down on the bottom left hand side of the switch. Run that for around about an hour or so for the water to heat up. If you are desperate for hot water, you could actually put both the mains and the gas switches on simultaneously if those resources are available to you. When the system's not in use, leave switches in the middle position and allow everything to shut down. The gas room heating system, the controls for it are just underneath the window. Lever over on the knob, I should say, over on the left hand side allows you to turn it just to a fan position, so you can just recirculate air within the van, or you can put it into a gas mode. When it's established the gas connection, you should see a green light come up on the left hand side, and you'll start to get some heat being dissipated out of the vent next to the fridge. Thermostat control, just simply click it around to the desired heat output. you could turn it back the other way and just leave it in a frost mode if you desired. When you switch the system off, sometimes it does overrun whilst it cools down. You have hob and grill, so electronic igniter, a couple of clicks and it should draw the gas through. Same for the slightly larger burner. No isolators on these lids, so you do need to make sure that everything is properly switched off and cooled down before you bring the lid down, otherwise it will explode the glass. For the grill operation, remove any flammable materials first of all, and then turn the lever through and use the piezo igniter above, and you should see a nice crisp blue flame appear in the top of the grill. You have a three-way fridge in the van, so the controls are over on the left-hand side. Up the top, it's off. You have a mains position for when you're hooked up onto 240 volt supply. Your 12 volt mode on this is merely activating an element which runs off the alternator and maintains the temperature within the fridge. And then for your gas operation, you have to do a couple of things. First of all, turn the dial to the bottom position, pushing on your thermostat, pressing on the igniter, and you'll see the needle start to move towards the green zone. Hold it in for a few seconds just to let it establish itself, and it should stay just on the edge of that green zone, indicating that the fridge has lit on gas. Bathroom roof light has these brown tabs on, so you need to push up onto these in order for the roof light to open. You can control the direction the roof light sits in, but for travelling you need to make sure they are locked down into the lowest position. The central Remus roof light has a winding handle on it. Turn it a couple of times and then it will begin to wind up to your desired position. And then to wind down, turn it back the opposite direction. Keep winding, at least an extra half turn. Just push your fingers up onto the perspex just to make sure that it's locked in before settling the handle back into its rest position. Around the cockpit and cabin controls, over on the driver's door, you have your mirrors and your electric windows. You have a bezel on the right hand side for off, side lights and dipped, and then you pull out on the switch one click for your fog lamps, and then for the rear fog lamps, pull it out a second click. There's instrument binnacle and headlamp beam adjustment on the little bezels to the left of that. Wiper controls over on the right hand stalk, and your indicator and main beam as well as your cruise controls are over on the left hand stalk. Heated rear window, air conditioning and recirculation, as well as your temperature, speed and directional controls. Conventional radio CD player with FM, AM and CD functions onto it. And then lockable glove box, which has got your alloy wheel bolts in it as well, and then passenger airbag as well as your hazard light switch, cigar lighter or 12 volt socket, as well as your cup holders into there. To start the vehicle, foot down on the brake clutch pedal, make sure that the vehicle is in the park mode, and it should turn over and start up. Automatically turn off the 12 volt supply in the back of the vehicle, and then down through the positions for reverse, which activates your reversing sensors, and then neutral, drive mode, and which you can then use in a manual mode to go sequentially through the box, and then a sport mode as well. So that concludes the handover for your AutoSleepers Topaz. I sincerely hope you're going to enjoy the vehicle. It's going to give you lots of miles and lots of smiles. On behalf of Highland Camper Vans, thank you for watching.